transition me over to going through each of these picks and kind of us figuring out where they stand on this roster and how they're gonna, what kind of impact they're gonna make early on. So obviously, Penei Sewell early on sounds like he's gonna start, at tackle, right tackle, and man the edges with Taylor Decker and hopefully keep Goff upright. So
yeah, I think it makes sense. So the way this thing completely crumbles and looks worse than it even is if you get a guy like Goff hurt, right? So I mean, any NFL team is gonna struggle when if their starting quarterback goes down, but the Lions are gonna be bad, and they would look significantly worse. And you get absolutely nothing from that Matthew, from the Stafford trade other than future picks, I guess. But you get nothing this year really if Goff goes down. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Overall pick.
Maybe, but might have that anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know. And not only that, I think it's going to be. I think you look at this Lions offensive line now with Sewell in there, and you got to feel pretty good about just even the next 4 or 5 years with this offensive line. Young, extremely talented, versatile. As long as they can stay healthy, I feel pretty good about the Lions up front. Once Sewell kind of gets, I think he's probably going to have his fair share of struggles this first year, but I think he's going to be a very, very good offensive tackle eventually. Get him through the first, part of the season and get him figured out. And he's sky's the limit for that guy. I mean, he's got a huge ceiling to be one of the best tackles in the league, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I think the Lions O-line is basically set, except I think they could use a better guard. Just maybe one. I think Jonah Jackson and Vaitai aren't bad. Like, they're good. Like, they're all right. They're flanked by guys who are very good. So hopefully it won't be shown like if they were our best linemen, it would be really bad.
Yeah.
But so I could use another guard if I was really being nitpicky, but like the line is like set.
Even Tyrell Crosby can play guard if we need him to. So there's essentially Vaitai or Crosby.
They even talked about Sewell's versatility. Like if they had to kick him inside with an injury or if it just made sense given the roster construction, like they could kick him inside too. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean they set their lineup to be very successful. Like I said, with those two tackles and Frank right now at center, like you can have some mediocre guards. Like it'd be awesome to have a better one, but Vaitai. I'm getting my Samoans mixed up. Penei Sewell just in my mind, pretty much for a probably less than 6 win team, they have the best O-line.
Agreed.
Yeah,
easily.
All right. Well, number 41, they picked Levi Onwuzurike from Washington. Most people had him rated as the number 2 defensive tackle in this draft class. So value pick, not bad there. I think for me, my hope is that he gets 70 to 75% of defensive snaps in his rookie year, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you got to just play the guy. He certainly brings a lot of enthusiasm. So he's gonna be a fun press conference.
With a potty mouth.
He's gonna be a really fun press conference every time he gets out there. I can tell you that much. So I think that kind of is a trend you're seeing. Sewell was super fired up in his press conference. Onwuzurike is obviously kind of strangely fired up in a weird way. He's kind of a weirdo. That's all right.
He's like the Quinn Nordin.
I mean, I think that's kind of buying into the Dan Campbell kind of thing. Like, look, these guys are going to be happy to be here, and they want to be here in Detroit. And I think it needs to, the way you build a culture is you want players to want to come play there. Just like the idea of, you want coaches to want to come coach there. We talked about that a little bit last week. You want, that's the kind of culture you want. And, you don't want teams dreading, you don't want players dreading that they draft you. You know what I mean? That you draft them.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the Jets.
So I mean, even Trevor Lawrence's video, and he's like, Duval.
He's not thrilled. Not thrilled.
Dude wants to kill himself.
We can talk about it, but I did not actually like the Jaguars draft at all. But they did. I don't think they drafted very well. Yeah, overall good value, exciting. You know, uh, yeah, maybe not an every down player yet, but I think the hope for the Lions is that he builds into that. So
yeah. So I mean, with it's hard to kind of mention it too much without talking about like the other DT they drafted, but now you have 10 players on the roster at DT, which is obviously not what's going to make the 53-man roster, but they just have a lot to figure out in that positional department now. But I think Brockers and Onwuzurike are Onwuzurike are the starters there. I think, and then you have Hand and McNeil backing up Williams, and then I think a guy now like Penasini's on the bubble. Like I think the rest of those guys are on the bubble. So I think having Onwuzurike, get like 3/4 of the snaps is going to be really important. I think one of my things with especially like top 4 round picks, I guess 5th and 6th and 7th you could like make a case against this, but like my thing is put them in the position to play and like see what you have. Like you need to figure out now what you have in this play. So like you don't have anybody you're paying a lot of money that needs to stand in front of him on the roster. So put him in position, see what you have in him. Like if you think McNeil is gonna like be a plug and play and like fit a lot of gaps, like make him fill those gaps. Like see if he can do it. So if you think Onwuzurike could be a starter, like going forward, like do it. Make him a starter then. Like see what he's made of, and I think he can rise to the occasion. Like I think he's got some growth, as every college player does come into the NFL. But I think he could rise to the occasion and show that he's like the best. I mean, like I don't think he's got a lot of competition to be the most impactful DT on the team. So.
Yeah, so obviously transitioning over to Elin Mcneil at 72. Obviously we talked about how he's definitely not our favorite pick in this, and seems like a specific plug and play guy. But like I agree with what Isaiah said. Like you almost have nothing to lose to just put him and Onwuzurike right next to each other and play it out, see how it goes. I mean, obviously you want the talent in there, like Brockers. I mean, that's pretty high end talent. He's getting up there in age, so I think that's kind of a concern they brought forth in that pick. Deshaun Hand has injury concerns, and I think they brought that into consideration. Penasini is very specifically run defense, and then Nick Williams is in a contract year. So I think you have those specific reasons on why McNeil was picked there. But I think at this point you still have nothing to lose to give him a majority of the snaps up there with Onwuzurike. So go ahead. So I guess what I expect is, hopefully I see him 45 to 50% of those defensive line snaps. I've got to think he's got to be out there for at least half of them. And then Onwuzurike, like I said, 70 to 75 should not be too much to expect, especially with a rotating defensive front. So
I think they want to rotate those guys a lot, but I think that the idea behind even drafting that guy is just for depth purposes, kind of like you said. Like if you got some older guys up there, you never know. They might get hurt. They might just be completely inept at this point in their career. That can happen, even if they've been good lately. So I think it's a good pick in the sense of depth. I just wasn't thrilled with the value they got there. So that was my whole problem with it. But I get it. It's not like I don't think it was a bad pick. I just don't think it was the best pick that they could have made in that situation.
Yeah, but I think like if they're looking at McNeil as a run stopper, like if they want that to be kind of his primary role, to like be that guy, like every down where they have less than 5 yards to go, he's on the field. Like 2nd and 5, he's on the field. 3rd and 2, he's on the field. Like every single, like if it's most likely a run play and he's supposed to, like he's on the field. Don't worry about giving up a first down. Like if he's everything he should be, you shouldn't be giving up so many third downs. So like if it's a short package or if it's a big package on offense, like an I form or something, he's on the field. Like if you want him to be what he is, figure out whether he's that or not. Like, put him out there.
Yep. All right, 101, they drafted a defensive back, Ifitu Melifonwu. And he's a guy that, like I said, I really like him. a lot. He's versatile in that defensive backfield, and with a need positioning at safety, and maybe some depth concerns at corner. I really like this pick here. I don't know how much we're going to see of him early on. I think right away they're going to stick with Amani Arawariye and Jeff Okudah on the edges, and
Sure.
I think they're going to maybe switch up this slot with Corn Elder. I mean, they signed Corn Elder this offseason, so I think that
name.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And I think they've got other corners they might like as depth. I mean, Mike Ford probably just makes the team too, just based on his fill-in performances. I just think it's a need in general. To get Will Harris off the field as much as possible for me is a good thing.
Yeah. So
and Ifeatu Melifonwu, like, he's got size, which is not a thing that they've consistently had at corner. Like he's 6'3", like he's long. So I really like that about him. As just something they didn't have a ton of, but now I guess they have a very large cornerback room now.
Yeah, I think that
their top guys weren't that big, so
I think it kind of you kind of notice a trend. I think they want the taller corners. I think they want the taller DBs to kind of match, be able to match up with some of these tight end matchups that you see in the NFL now, and some of these bigger receivers. So I think that's a big thing. He is versatile. There's talks of him moving to safety if it makes sense. I don't love him at safety though. I just don't think that's where he fits the best. I do think he's a corner long term. But if it makes sense on this team, especially this year when they're not going to be that good, to get him some play there and just to make sure he's on the field. If you want to get him on the field and it makes sense to put him at safety, then maybe that's where he needs to be. I don't really have a whole lot of concerns with him because I think it was pretty high value in that situation. I think he's certainly depth right now, and we'll see. Like it's a need from the sense that I guess I don't know, like cornerback, you don't look at it as a need like on paper with the Lions, but like you have question marks there for sure. Like from a pure position, how many guys you have at a position standpoint, it's not a need. But you have question marks if Okudah can bounce back from a tough rookie year. You got to have that happen or else Melifonwu was probably gonna get a lot more time. So I don't know. I like the versatility. I guess my only other gripe with the Lions draft is I liked some of the safeties in this draft and they didn't get any of them. So that was my only other problem with the Lions in the draft, and we can talk about that later, I guess. But
yeah, we had done several mock drafts just together, where and even in my first mock draft, I actually did have Trevin Morwig fall to the Lions at 41. I was really hoping that was going to happen, and they actually had that opportunity. He was picked 2 picks later. Yeah, but Jamar Johnson had a surprise fall, and he was my second or third best safety from Indiana. And he went to Denver at 164. Richie Grant went kind of early. I wasn't really that into him. Darius Washington went undrafted, so I was really surprised on that one. I was hoping maybe at 257 we would have got him instead of Jamar Jefferson. Yep. Javon Holland went ahead of Trevin Morwig, and Jamie Sherwood, Andre Sisco, Paris Ford went undrafted. Divine Diablo went in the 3rd round. There are definitely some guys that we talked about when we were doing our mock drafts that we were like, hey, this could be a nice thing for us if we get these guys in the late rounds. And we had those opportunities, and it
was clear their thought process was let's build the interior up. So that was the whole idea behind the entire
and versatility, I think. Yeah.
And from a versatility standpoint of let's find a way to get all these guys a chance to play this year. I think that was the whole idea behind the draft, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna bash it. I just liked some of the safety prospects this year, and I felt like they could have done that, but I'm not killing them for it, I guess.
112, they went with USC's 6'2" wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, the younger brother of Equanimous, and both sons of a ripped bodybuilder. It turns out I did not know that. So him and DeAndre Swift's dad should have a fight sometime.
That'd be you could do it at Ford Field, like on a stage. That'd be pretty fun.
You could
halftime show,
pay-per-view, baby. Yeah.
My money's on Swift, by the way.
No, I mean, like, I think there's some upside with St. Brown. Like he seems like, I don't know. He seemed like he will have time to shine in this this wide receiver room. Like there really isn't anybody that stands out. Like I really like I don't know. I don't like any of their wide receivers. I don't like Rashad Perriman. I don't really care for Tyrell Williams. I like Quintus Cephas just because like Matt Stafford made him look really good a couple times.
Khalif Raymond is super fast too.
But I think St. Brown's got some time to shine, and we'll see like what it's like. He's definitely going to be like getting like third and second depth chart reps. I think like he's going to be on the field. So yeah, I feel like they should have gone with wide receiver earlier. In the third, they had Dynamic Brown available. I think they were maybe a little gun shy because like a lot of wide receivers, like there wasn't a lot at that were worthy of their second round pick.
Right.
But in the later rounds, they definitely had options that I thought they could have gone. But with where they picked the wide receiver, I thought he was the best available option. So if that's how long they were going to wait to get a wide receiver, I think they did an all right job picking him.
I agree. I mean, I think I like what you said. I really do think he's going to get a chance to play a lot here.
Yeah.
You know, there were a few receivers that I was kind of hoping would fall, and then they didn't. And, you know, so I do feel pretty good about the pick. I think he's going to get a chance to play a lot right away. He should have an okay quarterback at least right away. You know, and a guy that, you know, is going to give him targets. So I think that's the whole idea why they didn't maybe draft a guy earlier either, is like, okay, they had a few more positions of need at certain spots. And I guess the whole idea is, okay, you know, we're gonna draft one guy that we know we're gonna get targets and we feel really good about his upside, and we're gonna make sure that, you know, he gets a lot of chances to show us, you know, what we thought of. So, yeah, I like the pick for sure.
I do. I mean, value wise in the fourth round to get, well, my opinion of as the 10th best wide receiver in this class actually.
And it was a pretty top heavy receiver class in my opinion, but it wasn't like it was. There was some.
I felt like he was the top of like the next tier down of some of the better receivers.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I think
he was like the top of that third tier.
I think he's definitely got a ceiling, and I think he may actually start this season out as the number 4 wide receiver, and maybe hopefully him and Cephas just work their way into more games. Obviously Tyrell Williams has injury history, so we don't know how that's going to go. Rashad Perriman has bust history. You don't know how that's going to go. Maybe playing for his dad's former team, Brett Perriman, might be a nice touch. But I mean, obviously I look forward to seeing a little bit of St. Brown in this year. They went back to back though at 113 and got Derrick Barnes in a trade up. They traded away their
I thought that was great
round pick. I like Derrick Barnes. I think he's explosive off the snap, but obviously size is a concern and coverage is a concern. And I think if there's one thing that I really was hoping for more of was a coverage linebacker this year. But I think value-wise, it's hard to pass on a linebacker like, you know, Derrick Barnes that is effective in the run defense, is explosive off the ball if he needs to get to a quarterback. Just being 6 foot tall and like 235 pounds, it's
a
little undersized. So if you can pack a little bit more on and they find like a specific zone for him to be in, then I'm good with it. I just like the problem is Zaven Collins didn't fall to us at all. And Zaven Collins is, you know, arguably the best pass coverage linebacker in this class. Even Jabril Cox is pretty good. So that's why I really actually like Jabril Cox at that spot. Just because, you know, in that LSU defense, he read the quarterback size pretty well. Looked pretty good.
He was essentially a roving. I mean, he was kind of playing that in the box safety more. And that's kind of
LSU has a unique defense, so you never really know how that translates all either to the next level. But that was my preference there, size wise and coverage wise. That's what I was looking for. But Derrick Barnes definitely brings a lot of potential, and if he can improve his pass coverage game, he could be a really nice pick.
Yeah, I think he's.
I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think, like I kind of said, I love the pick because I think they identified exactly who they wanted in that spot. So it makes sense. And then they traded up. So I think it just showed some draft savvy for the front office. And that's what I like. Not even, I mean, yeah, Derrick Barnes, I like the pick for him as a player, but I just like the idea of them, you know, finding value late in the draft and going after it, trading up in certain situations. So I like that from the front office. I just like the thought process and how they went about it. Not necessarily, even if Derrick Barnes ends up being not, what we hope he is. I just like the idea of them identifying talent and going after it. So.
Yeah, I think. I think Cox might be my biggest miss on the draft board. I think not like now, but like eventually. Like I said, I was going to be watching JOK and Cox. I said then I give a little bit of a pass because JOK had some heart condition issues that weren't confirmed as not an issue till after the draft. Like Jabril Cox was everything I wanted the Lions to get in a cornerback or a linebacker because they have needed a coverage linebacker for years. They have been at the bottom of the league in like midfield and linebacker depth coverage, like slant routes and short routes over the middle for years. Like they've been at the bottom of the league. And it's just because, they're in a different regime, so hopefully they figure out. But Jabril Cox just knows how to read quarterbacks, at least at the college level. So he should be able to learn how to read quarterbacks at the NFL level, especially with so many young quarterbacks in the league this year. So I was really disappointed they didn't get him. But I do like Barnes. Like you guys mentioned, size is an issue. He is not great in coverage. But if I am one of the defensive coaches, he's learning coverage every practice. Like he's going to learn how to read quarterbacks. He's going to learn how to read coverages because they just need it. They need it desperately.
Yeah. Their last pick at 257, they drafted the running back Jamar Jefferson out of Oregon State. And I don't know. Again, there's players that went undrafted that, again, Darius Washington. He was a top 6 safety for me, and he went undrafted. Paris Ford went undrafted. There are safeties that I would have preferred at that spot, and maybe they felt like they already got their defensive back need filled in the draft. And to me, when you draft a guy that may not even make the team or doesn't have a place to even, take applicable snaps in a regular season, like he probably gets, there's a chance that he goes to the practice squad. He's probably running back number 4. And we'll see if they keep 4 running backs, if they carry a fullback or 2. Because again, Kabinda and Bowden are both fullbacks on this roster right now. And you think one of them goes, but if you want to count that as a running back, then you may not even have 4 running backs on the active roster, and he may get booted to the practice squad, in which case he may get picked up off the practice squad like Jason Huntley did. It's just, to me, it's not worth that kind of pick. You want to pick a guy that may have an opportunity with your team on special teams. So unless they have a spot for Jamar at kick return or punt return, I don't see the value there.
Yeah, I think they like his skill set, but I don't see. You're not finding that much value in the 7th round anyway. But I don't think you can sit here and say those are wasted picks, especially for a team that's that bad as the Lions are, and probably will be for at least a year or two. I think even if I don't know, I agree with you, Joel. There were a couple undrafted guys that I don't know, maybe they didn't like the way they go about their business. Maybe they didn't fit the culture. Maybe, you never know. We're not privy to any of that knowledge, but there were some undrafted guys at other positions of need. Like the running back is not a position of need for the Lions right now. It wasn't going into that. So, and it was probably, if I were to look at that team, it was quite possibly the last position of need, other than maybe tight end, which now looking back, obviously maybe it wouldn't have been a bad idea to grab a tight end, but other than maybe tight end, actually, I'd probably put running back as the least position of need on that team. And that's, and then they went out and got one, which, whatever, maybe they just thought he was the best available guy at that position or at that point. But I don't love that pick at all. So maybe, I don't think he's my least favorite. I would still say McNeil is, but I don't think you can put the 7th round pick as your least favorite, because it's
that's why I didn't either. Obviously that's probably mine too. It would be Jamar Jefferson.
Yeah, but it's the 7th round. Come on.
Yeah. I I actually am I was super happy with the running back room going into the draft. So I don't really I didn't care for it. I thought if they were going to go with running back for a guy to plug and play on special teams or just be injury fodder, they would just get an undrafted free agent, which they did in Raheem Boyd. But I feel like they could have done that with Jamar Jefferson. I don't see why they couldn't have. So yeah, because Swift, I like Swift. Jamal Williams I actually like a lot. And then I'm a huge fan of Kerryon Johnson still. So I just don't see where Jamar Jefferson gets reps unless one of those guys gets hurt.
And still may only get 2 snaps a game.
Right. And still he's yeah, I mean, my only roster building experience is with Madden, but I only had 2 running backs ever.
Right.
Well,
you only really have 2 guys that are getting snaps consistently. Then you might have a third guy that gets in there if he shows out in practice or another guy goes down. So
yeah, usually you got a every down back, a pass catcher, and then a goal line guy. And they kind of already have that. Jamar Jefferson doesn't fit any of those needs. They have Williams for pass catching, DeAndre Swift for everything, and Kerryon Johnson to kind of push through some guys. So I don't see why they needed to draft. Again, it's a 7th round pick. What we do. But yes, I think they could have gone with one of those safeties or someone that just in a position where they need to throw bodies at the position. They don't need to throw bodies at running back and see who sticks. They need that to do that in with wide receiver and with safety and with some of these other positions where it's just get as many of them in the room as we can and we'll see who works out. They should have gone with, I think, wide receiver or safety with that last pick. I don't know who was available at wide receiver at that point, but
a lot.
Yeah, I think
more than
I think Dan Campbell just really, really, really wanted Ben Mason to fall there. So he kept that 7th round pick, but it just didn't work out.
That's a viable take for sure.
Yeah, sure.
That's what we said. I think when we did a mock draft, we picked Ben Mason with their last pick because we were why not?
We did.
Yeah, well, they actually didn't have that 7th round pick at the time we did the mock draft.
True.
But
yeah.
Obviously we were hoping he would even become. I thought he would be an undrafted free agent, to be honest.
Yeah.
Seldom do fullbacks go. I mean, he was one of. Technically, he was the only fullback drafted in this, unless you want to count Hunter Long from Notre Dame as a potential fullback, but he probably will play mostly tight end. But other than that, Michigan also had one of 2 long snappers drafted. There's only 1 punter drafted, and there's only 1 kicker drafted. So they're not positions that are commonly taken in this draft. So I really thought he was actually just going to go undrafted. It just didn't.
Yeah, I think the draft. I mean, we'll get into the Michigan stuff maybe, but I know we don't have a whole lot of time for the interview, but I think the draft really showed, if anything, Harbaugh goes and gets guys drafted. He has his relationships in the NFL can't really go unstated. I mean, 1, his brother's still a head coach in the NFL, which certainly helps, and 2, he's an NFL guy, probably through and through. In the end,
his father, Urban Meyer, is also in the NFL now.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Urban Meyer's draft, which I thought was bottom 5 of the NFL. Beyond, the only reason it wasn't worse is because he got the best player, which fell into his lap. So,
well, I mean, they also got Clemson report in the next pick with a Travis Etienne, but
I thought that was a dumb pick.
I don't
know if it was dumb, but it was.
I'm going to make a hot take. Travis Etienne is the best running back in this draft.
I'd say he is. I thought he was.
I mean, at worst he's 3rd, at best he's 1st. Yeah, I guess.
But I'm just saying, everyone kind of was oh, it's Najee Harris. Why would you? But dude, Travis Etienne's a dynamic playmaker, and I don't give Harbaugh too much, or not Harbaugh, Meyer too much credit for drafting him because the Jaguars just need fresh bodies that know how to play football. They don't have people that know how to play football. I know they got that undrafted free agent who had a great year last year, but Travis Etienne's better than him. So just I don't know. They just needed to get.
And then Raquel Armstead is coming back from opting out. So
yeah, they just needed the best players available, and I thought he was offensively one of the best players available. So
yeah, I just thought
the rest of their draft was butt.
It wasn't. Yeah, they had opportunities to get another Clemson guy when Amari Rodgers fell to them. They didn't go with it. I thought for sure that was going to happen now.
Yeah.
But didn't they? I'm trying to remember who else. Who did they? Oh no, they didn't get.
The Texans had a really bad
They got
draft.
Andre Sisco at safety, which I thought maybe they reached like 20, 25 picks too early on, but that's not bad.
I thought Houston had a bad draft. Minnesota had a good draft.
Yeah. Jeff will be coming on in just a minute. I was actually gonna. He just responded now, so I was actually gonna go through some of the undrafted free agents, but maybe we can save that for another time.
Yeah.
And then after that,